All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to BiblioWeb Page Builder Training. This is session number 3, which goes into advanced page design. Our goals today are to look at some advanced page elements, see some more complex pages. I have found some updated summer reading pages, which is awesome. Then we're going to build another page together, talk a little bit about some settings, and then a little bit about accessibility and best practices. So a couple of things to keep in mind with advanced pages. Your pages don't have to be this complex off the bat, especially for implementing libraries like you all for Vancouver friends. You could put some effort into making like maybe a couple pages more advanced, like maybe like your get a card page or like some kind of highly trafficked pages. But you don't have to make all of your pages wildly intense. The other thing with that too is we really want to make sure that your pages ultimately are accessible. They can be read by people who have different technology skill sets, people who maybe have disabilities might, look at your pages. So it's really important to try and make sure your content and your pages are accessible. So I'll show you some examples though that will hopefully, inspire you. The other thing I'll mention too is like there isn't really a hard and fast rule about what makes a page advanced. I have different thoughts about it than my coworkers. So, ask any one of us at Biblo Comments, we'll come up with different answers. But it's fun to look at. So let's look at a couple to start. This is Snow Isle's Crafts and Hobbies page. So we have a heading, we have a button, we have a sidebar menu, we have cards here. Now this one isn't particularly complex, but just has more elements on it, like some catalog carousels, themed around different crafts like drawing, upcycling, painting, and watercolor. And then they have some staff picks. So not necessarily a complex page, but just starting to kind of expand what we have built on. Now, Alameda's page is more complex. This is their Youth Poet Laureate page. So they have a row background set to purple. This is a 2-column row here. And see this image here in purple with the yellow outline? I call it a gemstone because I don't know what else to call it. They replicate that throughout their page. You can see that kind of purple image with the yellow outline on the left and right. You can see this as a parallax scroll, so the background stays static. The text is moving as I scroll. And then what they're doing here is kind of fun. It's a little tricky to see, but we talked a little bit yesterday about rows and columns. So here they have a white background row, but they've added a shape to the bottom of the row. So I can show you where that setting lives. They've added a shape called a wave and they've set it to purple. And then if you can see, and maybe you can't see it on your screen, but there's a thin little line here that's like really hard to see. I can tell that this is a separate row. And what they've done then is match the next row with that light purple color so it blends in seamlessly. And it might even be more obvious here in this yellow row. Maybe. There we go. You can definitely see it on this particular zoom. So on this row, they've set the bottom shape to a yellow, a wave, and then they have a new row starting here and they set the top shape to a yellow wave. So when I zoom out, it looks pretty cohesive. So just something that's like complex, makes the page look a little fun for their teens. And again, you can see kind of those similar elements being repeated throughout this page. Now, one library that a lot of libraries look at for inspiration is San Diego County. They have some fun graphics. They have a very vivid color scheme. And so you can see how they subtly use those colors throughout their site, like little pops of color in the icons. They make custom cards that feature some of their logos here. The other thing that they do is they'll theme their pages by color. So this teen card is kind of a pinky red. If I go to their teens page, a lot of the content has elements of pink and red. So they really kind of themed that together. They have row backgrounds here. We have a card collection, tabbed catalog carousel. Another example of some custom card images here that just kind of blend everything together. So they're kind of fun to look at if you're looking for like a library who's really cohesive in their brand. Glenview is kind of similar. This is their Innovation Center page. And they're just kind of adding row background colors here. So not particularly complex, but it looks very put together, I would say. Most Glenview pages have a really nice look and feel to them. The other thing that's cool is take a look at their logo. So it's a G made out of squares. On the bottom of each of their pages, they've added a little photo module that's like their deconstructed logo. So that's kind of fun. For inspiration, for Vancouver especially, we haven't talked much about location pages, but location pages are a custom page that you'll have access to. This is Palm Beach's Canyon Branch page. They have really leaned into, if you look at their logo, it's kind of this like vintage vibe, like vintage 90s, like very neon, very fun, and they have a lot of palm trees everywhere, which is like great. You can see those rows that I mentioned, the wave shape on the top and bottom here, a little more clear when they're two colors, palm trees in the background. Even their cards, their graphics have palm trees. So super fun just to kind of like peek at them because like I said, they really lean into it. Like we could go to their Inspire Black Voices page. Like palm trees. It's just fun. Like look at the colors. They have a great time. So they're kind of fun. Pima County has something that they call affinity groups, which is basically them kind of working with folks in the community, looking for, communities that may have been underrepresented or they want to give a bit of a lift to. This is their Biblio Lotus page. It's in support of the Asian communities in Pima County. What they've done is pull together all of their Biblio Lotus content. We have a catalog carousel here. We have a masonry collection here. And even as I scroll, you'll see the gradient changes. They have a gradient in this row background that goes from like cream to pink. So that's just a more advanced element. We looked at Stark Library, I think yesterday. So here's another example, their adventure packs page. Um, just really, really themed again. Sometimes to me, I think the more advanced pages have a really like cohesive branded look to them. Yeah, yes. And like, what you just put in the chat, it's really nice to see how folks incorporate colors from their logo into their pages. It just really looks cohesive. Um, Cincinnati's another one that folks like to look at. So they have a kind of circle imagery here. You can see pops of color in their logo. And then look at their graphics. These graphics are sprinkled throughout their site. Here's their makerspace page, for example. They have a little video on a loop here that's not loading. We'll blame my internet today. You can just kind of really see the colors. Here's even more of their graphics there. So they're kind of fun. But now we get into some summer reading pages. Oh, that reminds me. Let me open up one more that I came across the other day. I don't remember what they call it. Summer. Okay, great. We'll come back to it. Okay, so like I said, summer reading pages tend to be a little more complex for libraries. This one's out of Jefferson County. They have a photo module in the row background, and then they've overlaid buttons on top of it. Their theme this year is Color Your World. So they've basically broken up their pages into rows again, so they can add row background colors like this navy blue color here. I believe this kind of paint thing is another module, a photo module, I think. They've got some cute graphics. So just more kind of bright, friendly. They've embedded lists that they've made for summer for the different audiences. So this is a fun summer reading page. They even have some FAQs, embedded a video, and a library card banner. Okay, let's look at Cincinnati's summer reading page. I haven't looked at it yet. I just opened the tab because I knew they'd have one. So they've got graphics, they've got text, they've embedded a video, they have upcoming events. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, so what have they done here? This is a photo module. This is a heading. This is text. That's a button. So they are adding a row background here with the shape. They've probably adjusted the margins to kind of move up the content so it kind of sits above this wavy shape here. Yeah, this is cute. Fun. So definitely a more complex page here. Now, Fulton County, I like to look at too. We're going to first look at their homepage. So they're doing Color Our World just like Jeffco. Now take a look at Fulton County's homepage. Their headings are big and bold, all caps. They have separators that act as a kind of a visual interest, not necessarily separating the content. Their colors are blue and orange, a little bit of green. So that's like the Fulton County homepage. Now their summer reading page leverages some of those same elements. You can see the heading, still all caps, but smaller font, smaller separator. There's the blue and orange kind of colors being pulled through in their graphics. Here they have a row background and they've set a border around this. Actually, I should call this a column. This is a column. They've set a border to a dark blue on the top, so it kind of looks like that separator. Here's their babies, kids, and teen sections with card carousels, card collections, my goodness, as well. So they've kind of just, replicated parts of their brand onto other pages. Now, this is Arapahoe's summer reading page from last year. Their new summer reading page isn't up, but this is still a very complex page. And you can see we have a gradient in the row background. We have a shape. There's a triangle shape here. This is a heading, but this is a photo module. You can see the parallax as I scroll. And we have buttons, we have text. We've rounded, by we, I mean they. They've rounded the corners of this column to make it a little softer. You can see that parallax scroll. This is that same idea of the rows. What they've done here is they've actually put a photo module at the bottom of the row with trees in it. And then in the events row, they basically matched the top gradient to this dark blue of the trees and then set the gradient to fade to white as you scroll. And then just kind of blends into the rest of the page. So this is definitely one of the more complex pages. Branded graphics, one of my favorite things to see. So super cute. And then this is Kitsap's new summer learning page. So they're starting on June 1st. Reading is shrimply awesome. Fun graphics. Again, they're manipulating the bottoms and tops of rows to make this really cohesive look. The giveaway is that little white line there. Fun graphics. Kitsap's another nice one to look at if you're looking for some graphic inspiration. Their graphics look very cute, very similar to this, very friendly. So yeah, it's just a fun chance to start looking at some summer reading pages and getting inspired. So yeah, oh, how fun. Oh, we have a photo gallery here. I don't see that used too often. Upcoming events, image in the row background, got free lunches. Yeah, so there's some more advanced custom pages for us to be inspired by. There's my outline so I don't lose track of all the things I got to tell you today. So let's hop over to our next deck. So we looked at some fun page examples, and what we're going to do is build a more complex version of the homework help page today. We're going to leverage a template to save a bit of time. I'll show you where the settings live to put colors into a row background. I'll also show you where you can do it in a column so you can kind of see the difference. We'll talk about margins and padding because that will help you kind of manipulate elements on the page. Then we have a couple of modules to cover too. And yeah, we're just kind of cruising here. So this is something just to kind of tuck away also in the back of your mind, going back to taxonomies. So as you're starting to build your custom pages, if you like that idea of using taxonomies to let content filter in, it is really important to really understand how the content gets pulled through. So in the top example, we have the content type of blog post, audience of teens, and related format of books. So those three taxonomy terms are all in different taxonomies. So the way that the cards get filtered in is by using an and operation. So in that top example, the only cards that get pulled through are blog posts who have the teen taxonomy applied and the books taxonomy. So blogs for teens about books. Now in the bottom example, you can see teens and kids are both applied in the audience taxonomy. Whenever we have terms that are in the same taxonomy applied, we use an or operation. So in this case, we would see content for kids or we would see content for teens. Okay, so that's just kind of good to kind of know. We're going to dive right into actually building a page today. So let me put in the training site URL into the chat for everyone. Let's say PHP, I always forget. That's not it. Hold, please. I'm sure it's in our chat from yesterday. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to get logged into the training site. If it gives you trouble, let me know. Oh, yes, Joyce. Let me just make sure you're added to the training site here. Give me a second. Joyce, would you mind putting your email in the chat for me? And then Perla, here's something that's kind of interesting. Sometimes, because the training site is weird, if you log into your own BiblioWeb instance, so your fortvancouver.bibliocms.com, if you click on My Sites, then you should see training site listed in this list. So that's a workaround if that works for you. Thank you, Joyce.
That's the way I have to log in, Perla, is to go to the FERL site and then go into training. I've never been successful going into the training site.
Well, hopefully after today, you don't have to worry about it, but that is a good workaround. Oh, goodness. Joyce, I don't see a Biblio web account for you yet. Have you been able to log into to Oakland's Biblio web instance yet?
Mm, mm, mm. I yeah, I just started, so I had created one under like I think a random like Google one.
No, Joyce,
I-
we haven't added you yet.
Oh, okay, so
Um, and I didn't think you would be here for the training. So no, she doesn't have access to
okay.
any of them yet.
Oh, okay.
But the trainings that you sent, that's what Joyce has had access to.
Okay. Is it imperative that Joyce, you follow along today? Because basically what we would need to do is give you an Oakland account, let you create your Oakland account,
I
and then I
mean,
have to add you to the training site. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Alrighty, friends. I think we're mostly all logged in then. We'll just do our best today. So here we are in the dashboard. We're going to make our new custom page. So just like we did the other day, you can get to it by clicking New Custom Page. You can get to it by going to the All Content, All Pages page, or you can scroll down on the dashboard and click on Custom Page, and then click on Create New. And then let's give it a page name. I'll be BiblioCommons. You be your library name. Whoops. So I'll be oh my gosh, BiblioCommons. And then first name, And then what we're going to build today is a second version of the homework help page. So you can just type in homework help 2. So go ahead and give your page a name just like that, with your name. And then quick refresh on the create new page interface. You can type in an excerpt. What is the page about, basically? Over here, we're going to uncheck the custom page options because we're manually going to put a heading module onto the page. And then we can click on Launch Page Builder. So this is our page builder page. Now today I mentioned we're going to be using a template that will just save us a little bit of time. So let's look at the templates. So when the menu opens up, make sure you click on the template tab.
I'm sorry to
And
slow us down. I
that's
was able
okay.
to get in. Are you able to go back real quick one more just so I can see everything that you,
Oh yeah, for sure.
sorry, problem
No, you're
child.
good. No, it's all fine. So what we want to do is create a new page. So you
Right.
can get to it from the new drop down if you want.
Mhm.
You can click on custom page here,
Okay,
and
I'm
then
in.
it'll
Thank you. Yeah.
perfect. And then you can just like configure your page name like this.
Okay. And there was something you said about unchecking custom page or
Oh, yep. And then in the right-hand corner, uncheck custom page options.
and then are we publishing or pre?
And then we're going to
Oh,
click on
launch.
launch. Yep. Then we click on
Perfect.
launch.
Thank
Yep.
you.
You're welcome. No problem. Okay, so hopefully that menu is open for you in the right-hand corner. If it's not, you can just look for that plus sign and it opens up the menu. Now we're going to click on the template tab and you can see all these different templates. And there are lots. So you'll have access to all these templates here. Now on the training side, I have one special template for the homework help page. So what you're going to do is click on the drop down for templates and then look for saved templates. Then click on homework help because we're building a homework help page. And look at that. There's a template called training homework help. Go ahead and click on it. Templates are a little different. They're not a drag. You just click on them. So you click on it and ta-da, we have a template. So one thing I want to show you is adding another template. So let's say you really like this homework help template, but you also like, the Chicago Public Library Services page, and maybe you want to, Frankenstein them together. You can do that. So if you have applied a template to a page, then you want to apply another template. When you click on the second template, you'll see a pop-up that says, what do you want to do? Do you want to replace your existing layout? Do you want to append your new layout? Replace existing layout means that this homework help template I applied would be gone and we would just see the services page template. But append would basically add the new template to the bottom of this page, and that's how you can kind of mix and match different templates together. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to click on cancel. But yes, so this is our template that we're going to use today. So for my Fort Vancouver friends, this is something y'all could think about doing too, like building a template that, has some prompts in here. Like you can see like, oh, a tile card collection is going to go here. Here's a heading, here's text. And then you could kind of update this template on other pages that you apply it to. Okay, so we've got our homework help template in place. Let me pull up the slides here. So we've got our template. So row number 1 is going to be a card slider, heading, and text. So let's tackle that. Let's start off with the left-handed row, this card slider. Now, yesterday I had y'all practice clicking on the wrench to open up the settings. If you have a module in place, you can also just hover over the module itself and click on it, and that's going to open up the settings menu. So it does save 5/10 of a second, to not have to come over here to click on the wrench. You can just click on the module and it opens up the settings. So we've got our card slider in place here. We've got the module heading we need to fill out. So we could call this, featured homework help. Let's just do blogs in this section. So we've got our module heading in place. You can see it's looking for cards to be added. I'm going to uncheck show visually here because I don't want a heading on this particular module. I can still leave it available to screen readers, but I don't need it shown visually. And then underneath manual selections, click on edit card, and then in the drop down, choose blog post, and then we can choose our card. So I'm going to choose, I'll just kind of scroll today. Let's choose fall books for kids, and then you can click on save. And then let's add another card just so we have, the full effect of a card slider. Click on add card, edit card, and then we'll choose blog post again. And then let's see, what do we have here? I don't really have a lot of homework help blogs, do I? Little Women character picks. That'll work. Pick out any blog you want. It's just for fun today. And then you can click on save. So we have our card slider in place. We have 2 cards there. In real life, you'll have some real intention behind the cards that you pick. And then let's go through the different display options again. So on the display tab for a card slider, you can have carousel controls turned on or off. Makes sense to keep them on so folks can scroll through them. There's that slide order again. Fixed means that the order we set the cards is the order a patron sees it. But if I were to set the slide order to random, Julian, you might see, a different card when you load the page versus when I load the page. So that's what the difference is. You'll also see the card display down below. So here we want to show our card title. Here's what it looks like to show the card description. So it appears as text below the card. I'm going to hide my description, but up to you. And then on the Styles tab, we hid the module heading, so there's no adjustments we need to make there. All right, let's click on Save, and then let's tackle the right-handed column. We're going to rename the heading to say Homework Help. So click on the word heading. It's going to open up our heading menu. We can replace the heading text with Homework Help. And we want to set the HTML tag to H1. So now we've got that set to H1. And then click on the Style tab. So now you can change the color if you want to. We can change the font. Let's change the font. I'm going to change the font family from default to Oswald. You can pick out whatever font you want. So I'm going to set the font family to Oswald. The weight is too light. I can't read it. So we're going to set the weight in this case to normal. And then I'm also going to set the size. I'm going to set the size here to 50. So one of the things that's been kind of a gotcha for some of my libraries is using headings and also controlling the font size of the headings. So there is kind of some styling associated with some of the HTML tags, but it also kind of depends on what font you use, like what are your defaults and everything. So the HTML tag H1, H2, H3, H4, these are going to be used by folks who have screen readers. They get picked up by like search engines who crawl to kind of understand how pages organize. So whenever you're building a page, it's really important that you only ever have one H1. And so that is your page title in this case. Now let's say, you had like a subheading on the page, or like, we can use the book as an example. Your book title, Jane Eyre, that's an H1, but chapter 1, that's an H2. Chapter 2, that's an H2. If there was like a chapter 2.5, which now my analogy makes no sense, that would be an H3. So they're really meant to kind of go in order. So people can understand kind of the priority content and then like sub-content, sub-content, and so on. So when I talk to libraries about headings, you want to follow them in correct 1, 2, 3, 4 order. And then if you want to change the appearance of the heading, you're going to go into the Style tab. So we talked a little bit about style guides yesterday. Let's say that you make a decision that all the H1s on your site are going to be Oswald, normal weight set to size 50. Put that down in the style guide. Maybe your H2s are also going to be Oswald, the weight of normal, but maybe the size is 35. So definitely keep track of that. So that's my spiel about headings and why they are important. The other thing that we can do is align this text. So you'll see text alignment here. Go ahead and click on center. And then just for fun, click on style and spacing. And let's put a little bit of spacing between the letters. We'll do 3. And then one more thing, let's change it to all caps. So again, this is just so you can kind of see like the different configuration options you have in the page builder. So now we've got our heading in place. Click on save. And then let's do the text next, since I have to copy this from the Word doc. I'm going to paste it in for y'all, what we're going to replace the text with. So click on the text module, and then you can select all the text, remove it, and then you can paste in the text from the chat. So just some basic text about, this pretend homework help page that we're building. We're not going to do anything with the styling, but again, it's basically the same as the heading styling that you saw: family, weight, size, spacing, all that's there. All right, so we've got our row number 1 sort of done, but not quite, because we need to add the row background color here. So remember yesterday we talked about rows and we talked about columns. So row number 1 is a 2-column row, left-hand column, right-hand column. Now, when I'm hovering over a module, you can see it's outlined in blue. So I'm hovering over the photo module. Now it's really tricky to see because of the contrast, but if you look just above the highlighted module, you'll see a second settings menu in gray. And when I hover over it, it turns blue and it says row settings. Here we want to click on row settings and we want to open up the row settings menu. So what this row settings does is it's going to apply changes to everything contained in the row, which includes those 2 columns. And right off the bat, you're going to see something called width and fixed width. So what does that mean? So this is basically going to control the width of the page, but then we can also control the width of the content. So what we generally recommend in BiblioCommons is to set the width to full. And you can see when I set it to full, it kind of, moved out my content a little bit to the left and right. And it opened up another menu that says content width fixed. This is a setting that we generally recommend for your pages. So full width means that the screen can figure out basically what size somebody's screen is, but we also want to control the content width. We don't want the content width to be huge and overwhelm somebody on the screen. So this allows you to kind of keep a good ratio of big computer screens, but like legible content. So we recommend full width, content width set to fixed, and our default content fixed width is 1440. Now I have seen some libraries change this, like 1200, you can see that kind of scooted in everything. Sometimes they'll do that on particular rows if they want to add a little bit of visual interest, but 1440 is our default. So then it's kind of easier to see this live. So I'm going to show you 2 library examples. So let me go to Glenview. So Glenview uses the full width, but then the content width is set to 1440. And I'm doing this demo on a really big screen, so hopefully you can kind of see the difference. But you can see as I scroll through the page, there's a lot of nice white space to the left and to the right of the content. So, that looks nice. If I were to kind of adjust the page size, for example, let me do it this way. You'll notice, that the content like resizes. We still have some of that nice white space on the left and right. So that's what I mean by the fixed content width. Now for contrast, Las Vegas does full width and full width. And so you can see right away, there's a lot more happening on the screen. And it becomes particularly noticeable as we scroll throughout the site. there is not that white space on the left and right as much. So it can look really big on certain people's computer screens. And it's particularly noticeable if I were to zoom out on the page, like I'm at, whoops, let me zoom out. There we go. Like I'm at 67%. So you can see the content is trying to adjust to my view. So that can be a little tricky for folks. So that's why it's good to kind of think about it. I'll show you the differences between the two and tell you we want to go full width, fixed width of 1440. So if you forget, no worries. It's documented. Or you can just be like, full width, fixed, 1440. Okay, so that's about row settings. Now, there's more that we can do here in the row. We need to change the background color. Right now, the background color is none, which is basically white. We want to change it to blue. So click on the drop down for background, and here's all of your choices. Now, I mentioned when we were looking at some of those custom pages, like they put a color in the row background, or there was a gradient in the row background, or I mentioned the parallax. That's where those settings live. Some libraries will put photos into the row background and put like a color overlay on top so they can put text on it so it's contrast compliant. So in the row, you want to go to the background type. Now we're going to keep it simple today. We're just going to do color. So click on color, and then you'll see a background color option. Click on the eyedropper, and we want to do a dark blue color, or you can do whatever dark color you want, because ultimately we're going to change the text to white. So my dark blue color that I'm going to use is 2D63AF. Oh, that's not right. 2D63AF. There we go. There we go. So that's how to add in the background color. Now, a couple of other things that I mentioned kind of in passing on some things was borders. So you can add a border to a row or a column. I'm going to show you what that looks like. You don't have to do this part, just so you can kind of see it. If I click on border, I can choose what my border looks like. I'll go with solid. Let me pick out a bright color so you can see it on the screen. That's not really bright. We'll go with orange. Whoops. And then you can see top, right, bottom, or left where you can apply the color, and then you type in the width. So let's say I wanted to add a bottom border of orange to this row of like 50. Now you can see that orange border being added to the bottom of my row. We could do it on the side too. So that's one of those other kind of, not necessarily advanced, but something that you might not come across all the time. So that's the border. So again, you just pick your options, set your color. I also mentioned Rapaho had curved the edges around one of those columns. You can curve edges around rows. You can do it on the column. It just lives in the settings of the row or the column. And you can see here's that little curve option. So if I were to set, this to 50, it's a little tricky to see, but if you look at the left side of my screen, let's maybe set it to 500. There we go. Now you can see I've curved the edges of the row. So that's another fun setting there. And then I also mentioned those shapes. So here's an example. I'll do waves because that one will load pretty fast. Here's an example of waves. You can set colors, you can skew them, you can do all kinds of things. So some libraries are fiddling around with these different shapes. Like I mentioned waves, I mentioned triangle. So some of those fun shapes live here. Okay, so we have our row settings in place. Let me get rid of this. We have our blue background, but our text is not contrast compliant. So up here underneath colors, you'll also see text color, link hover color, and heading color. So let's set the heading color. We want our heading here to be white. Click on the eyedropper. The hex code for white is 6Fs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can set the text color too. So click on the eyedropper for text, hex color for white, 6Fs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can click on save. Okay, so now we've added our row background. We have our contrast compliant text here. Cool. Now there's a couple other things I want to show you, which are margins and padding. So you don't have to follow along. For this part, it's just kind of good to to show you those settings, but let me pause for a quick sip of water. Okay. All right. So watch as I do this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm hovering over the the right-handed column with the text and the heading. And you can see when I'm hovering over the column settings, it's basically highlighting everything in the column, the heading and the text module. Now, when I go into column settings, I can adjust the width of the column here. But one of the things that you may have noticed that I've been ignoring till now is sometimes there's an advanced tab. And in this advanced tab, you can find margins. And depending on if it's a row or a column or a module, you might also see padding. So if we look at this, they're basically aligned at the top, but maybe we want to kind of visually align the text and the heading kind of in between the height of this card. Then we'd go into the margins and we might adjust the top margin, like 35. And you see how that pushes it down a little bit? Now it looks a little more centered between the top and the bottom of the card. So you can add margins to the top, bottom, left, right side, all of that. Now, maybe I want to add a little bit of space between these two columns. Maybe these look a little close. So what I could do is add some margins to the left-hand side of the right-handed column. So here is the left side of the column, and maybe I set it to 20. And you can see it kind of um, pushed over that column, gave me a little bit of breathing room. So margins are basically controlling the space um, around the row or the column or the module. Now padding's a little different. Padding's going to control more of like the white space around a module. It's a little easier to see this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the link values to lock I'm going to lock the padding here. I'm going to set it to 100. So it's going to apply 100 as the padding around the whole thing to make it really obvious. So now you can see it's basically added that 100 here to the bottom, here, and here. And so also what it did is kind of centered the text more. So if I remove this padding, go back to normal, you can see that text is a lot longer in that 50% column width. So the padding is kind of a sneaky way to manipulate, the white space around an element. So that's what the padding does. The other thing that I think is kind of important is making sure you have enough white space between your two, like your rows. So here, we have some decent kind of, space between like the card here, the top of this card, we have white space, and then the bottom of this row. Maybe we want to add a little more blue to the bottom of this row here. So I might set, the bottom margin to 40. Oops, I did the wrong thing. I'm still in the column settings. My bad. Let me hit save. Okay, let me go back to the row settings. So see, you can mess up. It's all fine. We can fix everything. So I'm on the row settings. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to set the bottom margin to, let's do 30. And so here what it's doing is it's actually adding some white space between these two rows. So let me show you that again. So here it is without padding, or without margins, excuse me. And here it is with 30. And you'll see that this row has a default of the padding set to 0. And if I remove that and I set it to 50, I can add more of the blue row height, basically. So sometimes you kind of have to fiddle with both to kind of like really make it look the way you want. But that's where margins and padding is going to live. Now, the other thing that I want to show you too is in the column settings, there is something called equalize heights. Now, these are pretty equal in height anyways, but sometimes you might have, different content, in a row. And so you might want to equalize the height of the content. You can say yes, and then you can choose the alignment of the columns too. So that's an option. Okay, that's a lot. Let's move on to row number 2, which is a tiled card collection. And we are going to click on the module. So click on tiled card. We're going to give it a module heading. And this time we're also going to do blogs because I want to show you another way to showcase blog content. So here we got to give it a module heading. We can say, recent blogs. We're going to uncheck show visually. We're going to leave it available to screen readers. And once we put in a module heading, you can see cards are getting pulled through. We want to use our feed filters to showcase just blog content. So scroll down to feed filters, set the content type to blog post. So now here's our blogs. We also want to showcase our homework help blogs. So click on programs and campaigns and then select homework help. And then if we think back to that slide about the operation, this is the and operation. We are showing blog posts and they must be about homework help. And then, excuse me, if you click on the display tab, you can choose how many cards display. I'll leave it set to 5. Excuse me, let me pause for a sip of water. Oh, goodness. Oh yes, question in the chat. Is there a way to equalize the width of multiple columns or a way to easily adjust width to make space for variations of text length? Sort of. When we do this row, I'll show you the 2 ways that you can change the column width. So one of the things that you could do right away is like if you're building a page, you could drag over the different rows, like the 3-column row or the 4-column row, because that will give you 33% for each column or 25% for the 4-column row, and then you can kind of fiddle there. So sometimes that is helpful. Otherwise, you can manually control it, and I'll show you how to manually control it 2 ways. Okay. Oh, and then yes, there is a way in your browser that you can paste in plain text mode. So that is an option. I don't have anything pasted, so I can't show you. Okay, back to the tiled card. If you click on styles, we hid the module headings. There's nothing to do here. On the styles tab, you can change how these cards display. Do you want the image on the left or the right? Do you want to add a border or not? Do you want to add divider lines or not? But here, card display type, I want to turn this on because this will then add the word blog to each of these cards. And that's another reason why I turned off the module heading, because it says blog post. So our sighted users will see blog post, the power of magnetism, blog post, World Space Week. If I turn this heading on, it just looks a little repetitive. Recent blogs, blog posts, blog posts, blog posts. So this is one instance where I'm going to turn off the module heading, but I'll still leave it available to screen readers. So that's our tiled card collection. Click on save. And then we're going to do the single card in the middle here. So this single card is just going to be an event card. So click on the single card module. You got to give it a name. So we're going to call it featured event. Actually, we'll be specific. Featured homework help event. We are going to uncheck show visually because for our sighted users, we're going to do a little bit of work to make this card appear more prominent, but we still want our folks who use assistive technology to know that this is a featured homework help event. Therefore, I leave it available to screen readers. So we've got our module heading in place, and then we're going to do a manual selection. Underneath manual selection, click on edit card, choose event from the dropdown, and then let's choose, let's do chemistry tutors. So we've got our chemistry tutors card, and then click on save. And then on the display tab, you can include information like the card description. Let's go ahead and actually hide the card description. So now we have our event card there. Let's also turn off the content type. So where it says event in blue, we're going to hide that. The reason we're going to hide that is because we can choose to display the date marker or the calendar icon instead. So if you scroll a little bit down in the menu where it says event cards, date marker, you can click on a show marker and that'll add that little calendar icon. Well, it's supposed to. Maybe it does on your screen. Maybe my computer's being silly today. It should put on the calendar icon there. Oh, it's a manual card. Just kidding. Let's swap the cards real fast. Click on edit card for chemistry tutors. The reason we're not seeing a calendar icon is because I manually created this event card and it doesn't pull through the date because it's me just typing in it. It's at Thursdays at 7. So this is a good learning. Let's change this to study hall for teens. So change that card to study hall for teens. Now you can see the calendar icon there. That looks better. I mean, not great. Our square crop isn't good, but we'll fix it. And then click on save. Okay, so we're getting there. Alrighty, click on the display tab again, or sorry, the styles tab again. And we want to kind of promote this middle card. So here's where we're going to change the card's title size. Study Hall for Teens is a little small, so maybe we want to set the card title size to moderate instead. So just a little bigger. I'm going to leave the image set to above text, and I'm going to change this crop to rectangle instead. So click on image crop and set it to rectangle. Okay, now that looks better. You know, we have a good image here for the rectangle crop. So again, tuck that away for y'all to think about your image strategy. Do your images look good on rectangle crop, square crop? Do you need separate images depending on where the card is? Maybe, because you can see the square crop did not look good here. So we have our study hall for teens, and I think we're going to click on save. And let's tackle the Biblio events next. Now in the chat, I'm going to put in the URL that we're going to use. So click on the Biblio events module. Got to give it a name. So you could say, you know, upcoming homework events. And then that URL, we're just going to paste it right in. And that's going to pull through upcoming events. Now, quick refresher, where does this come from? Comes from your events instance. Here you can see I have chosen the program type of homework help. There's 92 events. All I have to do, copy this URL, and that's what I'm pasting into the event search URL. So it's literally 2 steps, maybe 3. Depends how many filters you apply to your event search. So we have our Biblio events in place. On the display tab, you can choose how many events you want to display. You can do 3, 4, 5, or 6. You can turn on the date marker if you want to. Maybe I'll go with light this time, so it's not exactly the same as this date marker there. On the Styles tab, we have the module heading visible. So if you want to change the module heading size, you can. Up to you. And then you can also add divider lines or a border to your homework help events module. Now we're going to click on save. And like, this is pretty unbalanced, right? Like this needs some work. So here's where we can manipulate the columns. And I want to show you from the slides, basically what we're going to do here. So we are basically taking this row and we're going to change this middle card here to really make it kind of stand out and to kind of balance the row and become a little bigger. So we're going to adjust the column, we're going to adjust the column widths here. So there are 2 ways to adjust column widths. The first way is we can manually do it. So put your mouse over the middle of the left-handed column, the tiled card collection, and then slowly move your mouse over to the middle of the right-hand side of that column. And if you take a look at my screen, you can see my cursor has changed to an arrow that points to the left and to the right. Then what I'm going to do is click and I'm going to drag slowly to the left. So I'm clicking and dragging slowly to the left. And you can see some percentages are appearing. So it's telling me what size the left column is, what size the right column is. So let's drag this to like 25. Now, as I'm slowly dragging this, you'll see that the study hall card in the middle is getting bigger. So it's basically, I'm increasing the size of that column. So now that card is increasing. So good enough, 25.1, great. So that's one way that you can adjust the column size. Now the other way is to actually go into the column settings. So in the right-handed column, hover over the column and then where it says edit column, click on column settings. And then here you can manually set the width of your column. So we'll set this, how's my math, 25%, I think? Not 325, my goodness, 25%. So you can also manually type in your own widths here. And then you can click on save. Now, one thing that we could do to help make this feel a little more kind of done is like we could center the text on this middle card. So I'm going to go into the single card settings and I'm going to go to the styles. Yes, I'm going to go to the styles tab where it says cards, look for align text and click on center. And then that's going to center this particular card title. So that looks nice. Now we also have some extra, like this homework help events is kind of long. We have 5 events here. We have the module heading turned on. Maybe we want to display 4 events instead of 5. So we could do that too, just to kind of visually balance this. So click on the Biblio Events module, click on display, and we're going to change the number of events to 4. And then click on save. Ta-da! That looks much more balanced. So the lesson with this is put your content in place, sort of get it where you want it, and then you fine tune it each time. Because it's a lot easier to put your content here, see what it looks like, and then start to adjust how many cards display or what column width you want. But yeah, so that is column widths and kind of some additional card styling. Julian, does that mostly closest answer your question about adjusting width?
Yeah, I
Sort
think
of?
I
Okay.
was thinking, this is me and my nitpickiness, but like kind of justifying the rows rather. So if the text is longer in one row, is there a way to make sure that the spacing between each row is relatively equal? But it sounds like it's
Oh,
all going to be a little bit of testing.
a little bit of testing, but also like we sort of add margins of 20 around everything to try and help with that. So, so, so yeah, like maybe it kind of does require you to actually put stuff on the page and be like, does this look okay? So sort of. Okay, so that is row number 2. So we tackled that. Row number 3 is a tabbed catalog carousel. So here where it says heading, oh, actually, let me point this out to y'all. See this this row that we added here that says subject guides, and see that these links are in gray. Every once in a while, the page builder is a little goofy. This is actually white text. If I were to go in and preview this page, which sneak peek, you can preview pages, you can see the text is white. It's just every once in a while, it's like a little wonky. So anyways, so like, build your page, preview it, make sure it looks good. So, okay, row number 3 is the catalog carousel. So we're going to click on the heading module that says heading. Go ahead and click on that. We're going to rename this to catalog resources. And this is going to be an H2. Why? Because we have our one H1 on the page. This is like our first chapter in the book. This is an H2. Now let's give this a little style. Click on the Style tab. We're going to click on the eyedropper. Hex code for this one, I'm going to do a dark blue. You can do whatever you want. 2D63AF. So I got that there. I'm going to click on font. We're going to make it match the heading. So font family is going to be Oswald again, or whatever you want. There's Oswald. I'm going to set the weight to light. I'm going to center it so that way it's centered on the middle of the page. I'm also going to change the the text to all caps. So that's again under style and spacing, transform, click on the 2 capital T's. All right, so got our heading, it's a little branded, cool. We're gonna click on save. Let's tackle the separator next. So I'm gonna click on the separator to open up the menu. I'm gonna do a light yellow color. You pick whatever you want. So click on the gray bar. Hex code for light yellow is FAA31B. And let's make this stand out a little more. I'm going to change the height to 3. I'm going to change the width to 35%, so it kind of just acts more like an underline. Again, you can change the style of the separator with the drop-down. And then we're going to click on the Advanced tab because this underline, I want it to look more like an underline. It's too far away. So here's where I want to adjust the margin. So I'm looking at the separator here. I need to adjust the top margin to 0 so it scooches it up below catalog resources. So on the Advanced tab, on the top margin, type in 0. I'll do that again so y'all can watch it. So there's the default of 20. If I set it to 0, now it looks more like an underline. Now I have been asked, can you do negative margins? You can do negative margins. Here's negative 20. But like sometimes adding the negative margin can like have unintended side effects, can look goofy sometimes on people's devices. So I usually don't recommend it. So like, let's say that, you set this to 0 and you're like, it's still like not close enough. What you could do is then adjust the bottom margin of the heading. So let me show you that too. So we're gonna make sure that your separator on the Advanced tab, top margin set to 0. And then watch this. So now I'm going to go into my heading. I'm going to click on settings. I'm going to go to advanced. And if I set the bottom margin to 0, now you can see it looks, pretty much like an underline, probably a little too close for me, but like maybe 10, so it really looks like an underline. So sometimes you might end up manipulating 2 elements to get the same effect, or to get the effect that you want. So little tip there. Okay. Let's keep going. Catalog resources. What are we going to do? We're going to put in some catalog searches. So click on the tabbed catalog carousel module, and we're going to give it another module heading. How about that? We're going to call this catalog resources. Now, there was a good question yesterday to kind of talk through a little bit more about this show visually heading. So this is a perfect example. So right here, we've added this branded heading called Catalog Resources. This module also requires a module heading. Now, if I left this as Show Visually, it would read twice. We would see the module heading here, and we also would see it here. So we don't want to show it visually. So we're going to uncheck Show Visually. Then we have Available to Screen Readers. Now, if a screen reader is going to read this page, they would read catalog resources from our branded heading module, and then they would still read this module heading from our tabbed catalog carousel. I don't want them to do that. That's a duplication. So this is an instance where I'm actually going to uncheck available to screen readers. So the screen reader is going to read this catalog resources as the heading, and then it knows that this is the content below it because we have this contained in a row. So that's an instance where you actually want to uncheck both options. So can be a little confusing. We'll keep practicing it. So catalog resources, tab number 1. Click on Edit Carousel tab. Let's pretend we want to showcase some science books. Type in science, and then in the chat, let me paste in our catalog search for science books. And then where it just says catalog search URL, you paste it in and you click on save. And if your computer's like mine today, it's not loading the search results, but hopefully you all are seeing cover art get pulled through. Sometimes mine just doesn't do it. All right, so let's do another tab. Click on Add Carousel tab, Edit Carousel tab, and we're going to do History. And then I'll paste this in the chat for y'all. And same idea, you just paste it in and then you click on save, and then we'll pretend it loads on mine. It must be my training site. So you can add up to 5 tabbed catalog.
Joyce, I think you were with Katie leaving. I think you got booted or upgraded to the host. I don't know if you want to pause the recording.
Okay, so let's go back to our spiel about the tabbed catalog carousel. So the tab catalog carousel is basically going to pull through anything that you search in the catalog. So for example, here is the search that we did in the catalog for children, nonfiction, kids literature, book, with a subject search for history. So really all we're doing is copying and pasting this URL, pasting it in, and we're set. So you can do up to 5. We won't do all 5 for today. What I was talking about just before Zoom cut out was you can move the order of your carousel tabs just by clicking and dragging. You can also duplicate them. I can't really think of a scenario where you would, but you can. And there's also an X to delete a carousel tab. So the tab catalog carousel doesn't really have any other styling. We hid the module headings, so there's nothing to do there. And then we can click on save. Okay, so row number 4 is a card collection, and we get to practice deleting something. So let's do that. So row number 4 has these 2 empty columns, and you can see one column is a little smaller than the other. What we're going to do is duplicate this catalog resources heading because we branded it. We're just going to save ourselves a bit of time. So what you can do is hover over the catalog resources heading. Look for the 2 squares stacked on top of each other. When you hover over it, it says duplicate. Click on duplicate. And anytime you duplicate something, it appears directly below. And then it doesn't matter which one you grab, but we're going to move one of those headings into that empty left-handed column. So we're going to click, we're going to drag, and there's our blue bar showing us where our content's going. So I have my heading into that left-handed column. We got to rename it. In this particular row, we're going to do like a recommended resources kind of thing. So click on the module heading, and we're just going to rename it to recommended resources. And then we can click on save because it's already branded. Now let's do the same thing with that separator. Now, what can get kind of tricky is like, if you're adjusting margins or you have lots of modules on the page, sometimes it's like, what am I actually hovering over? So one of my tricks that I do is if I'm unsure of what I'm actually hovering over, if you hover over the wrench, it tells you the module name. So you can see this is the separator. Now I'm just going to move over to click duplicate. Now I've duplicated that separator. Same thing, we're going to take the duplicated separator, we're going to drag it into that left-handed column. So click, drag, recommended resources into that left-handed column. Now you can see this separator is a little smaller than our original separator. So it's set to 35% width, and that is really the width of the column that it's placed in. So here, this column takes up the full row. It's like a 100% width. So this is 35% of that 100% width. This column's a lot smaller. It's like 30%. So this is like 35% of 30%. 100%. I hope that made sense. Okay, so we've got our recommended resources there. Let's put on some text. Click on the plus sign. We're going to scroll down to our basic module for the text editor. We're going to do nesting. So nesting refers to putting multiple elements or modules into a column or a row. Click on the text editor. We're going to click and drag, and I want the text editor to go inside the left-handed column below the separator. So if you take a look at my screen, you can see that blue bar below the separator inside the column. That's where we want it to go. All right, so in the chat, let me paste in the text we're going to use. Paste in the text. There you go. And then
Katie, this is where I found the paste plain text. You see on the far right on the tools, there's like 2 bars.
oh yes,
Yep.
this one.
Yep. Then there's the T.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
so
place
that's,
plain text.
that's how you do it.
Friends, did you all see that? So this little icon will basically open up the secondary row of like options in the text editor. That's such a great find. I actually forgot that existed. So A plus. So we've got our text in the text editor there. Click on save. And now in this empty right-handed column, or sorry, we're going to put a button in. I forgot. One more thing. Click on the plus sign. We're going to scroll down to those basic modules again, and we're going to put in a button. Click on single button. We're going to drag it into that left-handed row column. My goodness, left-handed column below the text that we just added. And then let's fill out our button. So the button, we got to put in our button text. So again, you want to be pretty clear about what the button is. We don't want it to say click here. So let's just say make a suggestion. So we can pretend on our homework help page that if people have a suggestion for a staff list about a topic, they can send us a message. Then you add your link. Now, for the sake of saving time today, I'm just going to type in Google, but you'd link to your form or, whatever. So you put in your link. Now, sometimes it doesn't generate the button right away. So if you click on styles, sometimes if you fiddle between like the button styles, it will generate. It's just, again, kind of a little quirk of the page builder. Now I'm going to leave the button style set to solid. Here's where you can change the color. Click on default and change it to custom. Then click on the eyedropper. Hex code for this one, 2D63AF, or a dark color of your choice. You can see that the text color is default, which is white, but you can also change the text color if you had a light colored button and you needed darker text on it. You can also change how the hover works. Default is darken 10%. And then we're going to click on save. We'll come back to the layout option. So there's our recommended resources. Now we're going to put in a card collection in that empty column on the right. Click on the plus sign. We're going to scroll up to the cards and then look for card collection. And then we're going to drag card collection into the empty right-handed column. So click, drag, put our card collection into place, release our mouse. Cool. Okay, now look at that, another module heading. What are we going to call it? Recommended resources. Recommended resources. And we're going to go through that, the show visually idea again. This one's even a little easier to see. See how right now it's checked to show visually? So here's that module heading, but we also added that branded heading. So this looks super repetitive to sighted users. Therefore, we uncheck. And because we have this nice branded heading here, a screen reader is going to read it. So we also don't need this available to screen readers. So we're going to uncheck that again. So another kind of walkthrough of what those mean. So we have our card collection in place, looks nice, but we want to just showcase staff lists. So we're going to use our feed filters. We're going to set our content type to staff list. And then we want to showcase our homework help cards. So under programs and campaigns, click on homework help. And then visually, this might look a little cluttered because you have a lot of books here in this tab catalog carousel. So maybe we want to change the display from 4 cards to 3. Click on the display tab and change the number of cards to 3. So that also kind of made the cards a little bigger, kind of, resize them within that space. Maybe we want to turn on our carousel controls. And then let's look at our card display. We're going to hide the description of the card. We are going to hide the author of the card. And then we're going to run through that taxonomy exercise again. So what would be the most helpful taxonomies to display on this homework help page? Well, this homework help page could be for kids and teens. So it would make sense maybe to turn on audience so people can see, that this tornado list is for kids. Like, that's helpful context. Maybe we also want to turn on topic because there are so many homework help topics like history or biography and memoir. So we want to kind of think through that. Now click on the Styles tab, and we are going to change the card display. So scroll down a little bit, and we're going to change the image crop to rectangle. And that's just, a styling choice that you all can think about. The other thing that's kind of cool is if I go back to square crop, down here it says list image type under list card. You can also display um, 4 columns in a card, but this might end up looking a little cluttered. So it's kind of like a personal, like stylistic choice. The benefit of this is it showcases more of the items on the list, but could be maybe a little overwhelming. So just to show you that option lives. Okay, click on save. We're probably going to go over today because my Zoom crashed on me, so we'll just keep chugging along here. Alrighty, so here I have a horizontal card. This is just to show you what a horizontal card looks like. So a horizontal card allows you to display one single card in a row by itself. It's designed to take up, a longer width. So click inside the horizontal card, and then this is always a manual selection. Click on Edit Card, and then let's choose an online resource for fun. And then from the cards here, you can pick out whatever one you want. I'll do novelist. And then click on save. So now you can see, we've got our image and we have our card description there. So that's what a horizontal card does. On the display tab, you'd probably, well, maybe you want to show your description, maybe not, up to you. And on the styles tab, you can also change how the card title displays, like, that's a little more weighty, a little more eye-catching. You can also change the position of the image too. So just to kind of show you what the horizontal card looks like. All right, click on save. And then let me follow along my doc here. So we did our card collection, cool. We saw that subject guides row example. Actually, well, we could just skip that one for now. I'm trying to keep an eye on time since I knew we went over the other day. So let's tackle row number 6, which is a saved row. So I want to show you a couple of things. This recommended resources row that we built, took a little bit of effort. So how can you save something to reuse it again? You can go into the row settings in this case, because I want to save, the heading and the cards. And there's a save as option. So when you click on save as, it asks you, what do you want to call this? So, we can name this the homework help recommended resources row. Then there's a global option. There's global no and there's global yes. Global basically means if you set it to yes, it sort of locks down the look and feel of the row. So not everybody can edit it. So some libraries who have like styled really particular rows with like certain colors or text or whatever will set the row to global. So that way only like, I think like super editors and higher can edit it. Other libraries will leave global set to no, and then, whoever is building pages can change the color, swap the cards out, do whatever. So kind of pros and cons with this. The best use of saving a row and setting it to global is a library who designed a really unique row to showcase their social media presence. So it has like very particular alignment, color of the columns and things like that. They don't want anybody messing with that except their designer. So in that case, they saved it as a global row, and it's the same on every page. We're not actually going to do that. So I'm going to click on cancel. And below this horizontal card, you're going to click on the plus sign and you're going to click on saved because I have this already saved for us. So on that save tab, look for the image called Training Resources Card Collection Template. We're going to click and drag this below the horizontal card. So click and drag the one with the image, and we're going to drag it as a new row. And so you can see that blue bar again, stretching the width of the page, looks great. And so we're gonna put our row there. Okay, so now, we have some of those settings already saved, so we can just quickly make some changes. Let's change the row heading to, let's see, what do I call this one? Learning Tools. So change the heading name to Learning Tools, click on Save. I'll paste in the text that we're going to swap out. So here you go. So click next into the text module. We're going to remove our text. You can plain text it in with our cool hack there. Ta-da! Paste is now in plain text mode. Ta-da! So paste in that text and click on save. Now we're going to delete this button because we're going to put in a button group instead, or a link group is what we renamed it. So let's practice deleting a module. Over the button, click on the X that says remove. You're going to see a pop-up. Do you want to delete this? Yes, we do. Click OK. Bye-bye button. Now, let's put in a link group instead. Click on the plus sign. Make sure you're on the modules tab. We're going to scroll down to the basic modules and look for link group. And then we're going to nest it inside the left-handed column below the text where we deleted that button. Click and drag. Here's our link group. Paste it below the text, or not really paste, drop it in. And look at that, our link group needs a module heading. Now the link group isn't actually read by screen readers. That's why you can see both of those options are unchecked. We just use the module heading in Google Analytics to see if people are clicking on a link. So we can just give it a module heading of homework, help, buttons. Cool, because it's just internal. This is literally something that just you all would see when you're logged in. Now the rest of the button stuff is pretty similar to what we did. Click on edit link. We're gonna change the text here. So let's do kids resources. Type in our link. In real life, you'd go to your online resources page. I'm gonna type in Google, and then we're gonna click on save. And then just to save us a little bit of time, let's duplicate this button. So hover over the duplicate icon, then click on edit link, and we'll just call this teen resources. Oops, teen resources, cool. Then click on save. So you can see the default color is this gray color. This is the site's primary color. Again, you can override it. Click on the styles, change the background color from default to custom. Custom color you can pick, but I'm going to go with 2D63AF, nice dark blue color. And then, since we have multiple buttons here, it's kind of fun to see the alignment options. Right now the alignment is set to center, so it's centering it in with that column. You could set it to left or right, and this is true for the single button as well. But with a button group, you can choose the alignment. So this is inline. Stacked means it stacks them on top of each other. There's also a width option. Auto means basically it adjusts for the size of the text on the button. You could do full width, which basically stretches the button to as long as the column it's in. So here, this column is at 35%. So, it's not stretching 100%. There's also something called custom, and you could set your own custom width. Generally, I don't recommend this because what if you change the button and it's like really long text or whatever, but you can. It does live as an option for you. So I'm gonna go back to auto. Okay, so there's my auto button there. All right, click on save, and then let's tackle this card collection here. Click on card collection, give it a module heading. We're gonna call it learning tools. And because again, we added this heading here, we don't need it shown visually. We do not need it available to screen readers. Once we have our module heading in place, you can see cards getting pulled through automatically. Let's apply those feed filters. Let's say that we want to showcase online resource cards. So what's our content type? If you said online resource, winner, winner. Then we can put in our homework help taxonomy term underneath programs and campaigns, and you can apply homework help. Now maybe want to apply like kids. Maybe this is just the kids column or the teen column or whatever. So again, it's just you kind of thinking like, what do I want to really showcase here? What taxonomies do I need to use? And good reminder, when you're building cards, make sure you keep applying those relevant taxonomies, because sometimes libraries who are building pages are like, my cards didn't show up. And it's like, well, did you give that card the homework help taxonomy term? If you didn't, it's not going to show up here. So that's again why taxonomies are super important. Okay, I know we're over time. If y'all have to run, no worries, but I will keep going. Probably another 10 minutes, I would say. Okay, so we've got that in place. We're going to click on save. And I want to show you something that's kind of fun. So let's say that, maybe you want to add a pop of color to these taxonomy terms. Maybe you want to make them purple for something fun. So how can you change something like the taxonomy colors? I'm going to go into the column settings because I'm just adjusting the taxonomies in this column. And I'm going to click on column settings, and I'm going to scroll down here to the link color and to the heading color. And I'm going to just remove these here. And I want to change these taxonomies. So the taxonomies are clickable links. So first, let's set the link color. You don't have to do this part, by the way. I'll just do this part. So I'm going to click on the link color and I'm going to set it to purple. And you can see the taxonomies have changed into this nice purple color. Now, if I click on save, the card titles also turned purple. Why? Because the card titles are also links. So to override that in the column settings, and you may have picked up on this, the heading color on that card collection was set to a gray color. And so I'm going to go back into the heading. I'm going to set my heading color to like this nice dark gray color. And now I can click on save. So that's kind of a handy thing to know about like, what's a link, what's not a link. So that's how you can change it. Now over here, this is something I've been fiddling around with. This is our science fair row. What I'm going to do is just quickly show you how to add a sidebar menu, since that's something we haven't seen. You can create menus in BiblioWeb, and then you can add them to custom pages. So here I have a menu called Science for Help. Cool. To embed a form, you basically just build a BiblioWeb form, save it, and then you can embed the content type of form. And then you can, put in a form. Oops, my contact us form seems to be missing. That's fun. We'll just do feedback for now. And so you can see, here's a form basically. So that's pretty easy. And then we already tackled FAQs. So what I'm going to have y'all do is delete this whole row. We're going to start from scratch. So we're going to click on remove above the science for help section, and we're going to delete everything in this row. So click on remove and click on OK. So now we deleted a row and all the content contained in it. So let's save ourselves a bit of time. Click on the plus sign, click on click on saved. And then we're going to click on the same one we used before, the training resources card collection template, the one with the image. Click on that. We're going to drag it to the bottom of the page as a new row. So you can see that blue bar stretching the width of the page. Great. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to change this online resources row into this science fair row. So we're gonna tackle this. So the first thing we're gonna do is delete this card collection. We're gonna replace it with a video module. So we're gonna click on the X to remove this card collection. So go ahead and click on the X. We're gonna say okay. And this time we have our empty placeholder here. So the column remained, we just deleted the module. So now we're going to click on the plus sign. We're going to click on the module tab, go down to those basic modules, click on video, and put it inside the right-handed column. Click and drag video into that right-handed column. Now this is going to be a YouTube video. So I'll paste this in the chat for y'all too. Whoops, that's not the whole thing. There we go. So here where it says video type, choose embed. And then just place your cursor next to the one, paste in that YouTube link, and then you can click on save, and ta-da, we've embedded a YouTube video. Now we can adjust the column on this one too, just to make it a little smaller. I'm going to go into the column settings. So click on column settings on the right-hand side. And I'm going to set the width on this one to 55. Cool. All right. Now what we're going to do is adjust this left-handed column. Click on row heading. We're going to rename it to Science Fair. Then we're going to click on Style, and then we're going to remove the blue color. Click on the X. And then we're going to change the size of Science Fair to 40. So type in 40 under the size. Let's set the weight to normal, make it a little bolder. And then on style and spacing, let's add some fun spacing. I'm going to do 10. You pick. So we've got that in place. Then click on save. And now the blue color has gone away. Okay, let's also delete the separator. I'm kind of going off script a little bit today. That's okay. We're going to delete the separator. And we are going to replace the text here, the lorem ipsum text. Click on the text module. The text we're going to use is, whoops, I'm going to paste it in the chat. It's too long to type. All right, in the chat, here's the text we're going to use. All right, click on save. Now, if you have the content script open, it actually tells you to put in a ghost button here. After speaking with our UX person, we kind of recommend against using the ghost button, and I'll show you what it looks like. The ghost button basically is kind of like a clear button, and it visually isn't as engaging as one of the solid colored buttons. So generally, if you want to use a ghost button, what we say is that button needs to be a secondary call to action. So for example, with the science fair, maybe our primary call to action buttons are things like, book time with the librarian, read the science experiment kits in the catalog. And then the secondary call to action might be like, get a card, so those first two buttons should be solid. And then you can add a new single button and style it as a ghost button. So generally that's why we don't recommend the ghost buttons and why I'm going off script here. Now we're just going to leave that for now because what I really want to show you is rows and column settings again. So we are going to go into the row settings. So hover over the wrench, then click on row settings, and we are going to change the background color. So click background, choose color. This one is just like an RGBA color. So I'm going to paste that in the chat for you. Click on the eyedropper. You can delete the hex code and just paste in the RGBA code. The other thing you'll see too here is like opacity and stuff like that. So you can fiddle around with your colors, transparency, all that fun stuff. So now our row has this row background, and I'm going to click on save. Now, if you look at this image, you can see there's like this little white blob here. This is a photo module. And so what we're going to do is we want to add that photo module into the column, the left-handed column. So click on the column settings. And when you hover over the column settings, like on my screen, you can see everything's highlighted in blue. So this is affecting the whole column. Click on column settings, and then we're going to change the background here. So if you think back to the Fulton County example, their summer reading page had like a green column background, an orange column background, a blue column background. That's how they're doing this. They're going into the column, they're setting the background to color. You can choose gradient, or you can choose photo, which is what we're going to do. Click on photo, then click on select photo, and we're going to type in the word blob, B-L-O-B. There's just one image. Click on it, and then click on select photo. Ta-da! Now we've added a blob image to our column. So that's kind of fun. If you ever add photo backgrounds or background images like this, you'll also see like repeating options, how do you want to position the photo, all kinds of things. So this one's you kind of have to like play around with it to get it to look exactly right. But this is just to show you where that setting is. Okay, click on save. And what I'm going to do is have y'all publish your page, and then I'm going to show you the responsive editor. Click on done, then click on publish. And now you just get to sit back and watch a couple of things. So whenever you're logged into BiblioWeb and you're looking at your custom pages, on cards, you will see like a little pencil. This will allow you to go in and like edit a card, for example. Like here, I can update this event card. You'll also see a black bar at the top of the page. So I can go directly into the page builder from here. And here on this left-handed menu, a couple of things to point out. If you want to save a page you made as a template, here's how to do it. If you want to duplicate a page because you're not ready to save it as a template, or it's not worth saving as a template, you can duplicate from here. Preview layout, or pressing P on your keyboard, lets you see the page as if a patron would be seeing it. And R, or going to the responsive editor, allows you to choose the responsive design. You'll also notice revisions, so you can like look at past revisions folks have made, so that's kind of handy. So what I'm going to do is go into preview layout just to show you what that looks like. Up here on the left, you're going to see all of our different device sizes: mobile, tablet, laptop size, large laptop size, and then since I'm on a big screen, I have like a bigger screen option. So that's helpful to know. Now the responsive editor is going to allow you to adjust the breakpoints on your content. And usually mobile looks fine. Everything stacks pretty nicely. That looks good. That looks great. But tablet is usually the problem. Tablet needs a little help sometimes. So take a look at our top row. We have all this extra space here because, this card slider takes up 50% of the width, but it's not particularly tall like our heading and text. So I would adjust the column. So here in the responsive editor, I'm going into the column settings. And some of you may have noticed there are little icons next to some of the settings. So this is the responsive editor view. So I have it set to tablet, and I'm going to set the card slider to 100%. And now that, fits the tablet size, and I can do the same thing here. I'll set this one to 100%. Now that looks a little more balanced, so that's cool. This row also needs some help, so I could do the same thing. Column settings, set the width to 100, click on save. Same thing here. You might find that sometimes you can fit something at, 50% and 50%. It just depends on the modules that you have selected. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is how to change how something displays. So for example, let's go to mobile here. Maybe on mobile, you don't want to display 5 tiled cards. Maybe you want to display 3. So what you can do is duplicate the module. So I've duplicated this module here, and I'm going to go in and set the breakpoint. So I'm going to click into the settings, and I'm going to click on the advanced tab. And I'm going to say, okay, this module, the breakpoint is going to be on my extra large, large, and medium devices only. So let me scooch that over. So what's going to happen is when I save this module is going to disappear because we're on the small device size. So now here's the duplicated one. I need to set the breakpoint for this to small. I'm going to go into the Advanced tab. Breakpoint is set to small devices. And then on the Display tab, I can change it to 3 cards. So now when I click on Save, here's my breakpoint. There's even a little eyeball that tells me we adjusted stuff. If I get out of the responsive editor by clicking on Exit, now we can see we have the 2 duplicated ones here because we're logged into Page Builder. This is our large screen size, and this is our small screen size. So that's handy to know how to do. The other thing that's handy to know how to do is adjusting something like the size of text, like this heading, for example. If I click into the heading and I click on style, here's that little icon again. So maybe on mobile, homework help might be too big. So I could be like, okay, let's set it to 35. And so this is just adjusting that typography size on the mobile side. So that's kind of cool. Okay, one more thing, then I'll wrap it up here. Let's say that, this catalog resources row is meant to do back to school books. And, it's summertime, so we're not ready for back to school books or whatever. Maybe you want to hide something because you're not ready to showcase it. What you can do is go into the row. You can also do it on the column level or the module level, but generally it makes sense to do in the row. You go into the row settings, click on that Advanced tab, and there's something called display, and you could set it to never. So now that tab catalog carousel is visible to us because we're logged in. But if I go into the preview mode, you'll see that that tabbed catalog carousel is hidden. So that's something else you could do. Some libraries use that because maybe on their homepage they're getting together Halloween content, but they're not ready to have it go live. The other thing you'll notice too is like this card slider looks kind of wonky because I'm switching back and forth between the responsive editor and preview. Again, just kind of a glitchy thing that it does once in a while. So that is the responsive editor. I think I covered all the things I like to show on that one. Okay, so a couple of quick slides and then I'm sorry, we're totally over on time today. But in the page builder settings, you'll want to eventually have your home page set. So I know Julian and I have talked a little bit about this. Lib admins can choose the page that becomes your home page. For my Oakland friend, if you were to ever design a new homepage, you could build it as a draft page, have people look at it. Then you would come to the default settings, and then where it says drop down or where it says set homepage, click the drop down and set your homepage. Now here's also where you can set the row width and the fixed width to 1440 like I mentioned. So some libraries just do that automatically so they don't have to remember to do it individually on each page. You can also have settings for like taxonomy links and stuff like that. Now, if you do set these default values, it affects pages going forward. It's not retroactive. If you end up saving rows, columns, modules, you can go into the page builder menu on the dashboard, and that's where you can look at your templates or anything that you've saved. If you do save things as templates, try and take a screenshot. It's just easier to like keep everything straight. And then when it comes to responsive design, the short story is design the desktop first, get the content where you want it, and then go into the responsive editor. Now we have really robust responsive editing guidelines, so I've linked them here. And then we also have the build your own custom page checklist. This is awesome. This asks you questions like, what's your breakpoint? Are you using the correct module for your content? Do you have the right card types? Do you have taxonomy terms turned on? Do you have duplicated headings? How are your buttons? So it runs you through everything. So definitely worth a read through. We also have been really building out our accessibility documentation, like color selection, making sure you have informative versus decorative images marked correctly. So definitely check out the accessibility and Biblio web section. I have some performance best practices. This covers like image sizes, things like that. If you're curious, look at some libraries' style guides like Fulton. They have a style guide there. And then we'll talk about reCAPTCHA later. We don't need it quite yet for my Fort Vancouver friends. Phew, And that was a lot we covered today. Questions? Questions I can answer for you.
Katie, you had mentioned something about accordions, maybe it was
Not being,
yesterday.
yep, not being accessible. Yep.
Okay, and you said that they're working on
A fix, yes,
a
but
fix.
don't
Okay.
expect it till like Q3 or Q4.
Okay, just thinking about design,
Totally. Yep.
our pages, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the catalog, carousel,
Mhm.
remind me, or we could talk in a one-on-one. There's not like an option for combining our resources and the catalog, correct?
Right, because the catalog carousel can really only have this catalog search URL. It's the only thing it can display is basically a search from the catalog. So if you wanted to display your online resources, the best way to do that would be through the cards and using like a card collection that then you can make it look like a carousel because people can scroll through the cards.
Okay,
Does that
but
make
there's no,
sense?
that it would have to live as separate pieces.
Yep.
We're gonna do like
Yep.
tabbing through them.
Yeah, they live they live differently. Yes.
And there's no plan for the future for that at this point, from what I remember us.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so because they're just so different, like how
Okay.
they're used. Yeah.
So I'm envisioning, Julian, like on our heritage pages, we'll have a carousel. And I talked to our systems people because I had that question yesterday about can we do a specific list of titles in a carousel? And they said that they'll alter the bib record so that we can
Oh,
do it and that's what they're
okay.
doing now to create carousels. So
Mhm.
Okay.
so we'll
Okay.
be able to do it because they'll change the bib record so that they show up. So yeah, what I'm envisioning, Julian, is we'll have the carousel of books and then we'll have, like an online resources section, and then community resources might be another module on the page. And depending on which Heritage Month it is, we'll have more or less of some of those.
Yeah, actually that's an interesting workaround. I don't think I have like any resources loaded into this site, but yeah, if they have like a mark record and you can search for them in the catalog, then you could pull them through on a carousel. So yeah, that in theory can work too. Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, I'm thinking our resources in the Heritage Month, but I was also thinking about my larger desire for things to be connected in a cleaner way for like the
Totally.
page. But
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like our team has creativity in our blood, so we'll find our way.
I love that. I love it. What other questions do y'all have? Okay, well, hearing no questions, which is totally fine. I overwhelmed you all with information today. Sleep on it. Let me know if you have other questions. Julian and I meet weekly, so if you want to send questions to Julian. We've also talked about sometimes it could be helpful for y'all to come to a meeting if you're like, help me, I want to see how to do something. Let me know. Tarshelle, you and I have been emailing, so we'll keep that going. I am running out of daylight today, so expect the training videos and PDFs of the slides maybe on Monday's a holiday in the States. Maybe Tuesday at this point. We'll kind of see how the rest of the week goes. But yeah, does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. All right, let me stop recording.